Welcome everyone to another Krita tutorial. Today we are going to be looking at the assistant tool in Krita. I gave my students an exercise, and the exercise was to create a house perspective. This is a simple house here, which has one bedroom, one bathroom, living room and dining area. Simple small house with a pitch roof. The students were to recreate this using the assistant tool. So let us first try to understand how to use this assistance tool. Let us read down here. How to use the assistant tool. There are a number of different assistants that can be used from this tool. The tool options allow you to add new assistants and to save/load assistants. To add a new assistant, select a type from the tool options and begin clicking on the canvas. Each assistant is created a bit differently. There are also additional controls on existing assistants to allow you to move and delete them. A set of assistants on the current canvas can be saved to a paint assistant file using the Save button in the tool option. These assistants can be then loaded onto a different canvas using the Open button. This functionality is also useful for creating copies of the same drawing assistants on the current canvas. So this exercise, we'll be using a couple tools. We'll be using the assistant tool. We'll be using a vanishing point. We'll be using 3 vanishing points within the assistant tool. We'll be using a paint layer, and we'll be drawing this with a pencil 3 large 4B. And lastly, we will place this image here of the house in our reference layer so that we can trace over it. So now before we get to this, we need to understand vanishing points because we're going to be using assistant tool to set up 3 vanishing points. So what are vanishing points? Let's go over to Google and look at that now. So it says here vanishing points. What are vanishing points? And I'm reading from here. A vanishing point or point of convergence is a key element in many works of art. In a linear perspective drawing, the vanishing point is the spot on the horizon line to which the receding parallel lines diminish. It is what allows us to create drawings, paintings, and photographs that have a 3-dimensional look to it. So now let us go over and let me try to show you some examples of vanishing points and how this actually works. So I'm going to take up my annotation now and let me start drawing over. So this is a 1-point perspective here, and the reason being it has 1 vanishing point. Everything recedes to this point here. So I'll put this as a VP, vanishing point, and I'll put 1 there next to it. That's 1 vanishing point where everything connects to this vanishing point line here. And you're able to draw your 3 dimensions from this vanishing point. So let us see where the 3 dimensions that we talk about when we ever talk about 3D. This is 1 face here. This is the 2nd face. And this is the 3rd phase, right? So that's a 1-point perspective using 1 vanishing point to create a 3-dimensional object. Now let us move on. I'm going to clear the drawing and let's move on to this one. This one has vanishing point VP1 and this one has a VP2. Same drawing. I'll put my 2 vanishing points there. Let me show you how these work. So these are 2 horizontal vanishing points. That's the left vanishing point, and then this is now the right vanishing point here. Probably use a darker green. And these 2 vanishing points, when they are connected, help to produce the 3-dimensional shape. Again, if we want to look and see where our faces are, 1, 2, and then our 3rd face is right here. So that's our 3 perspective faces, right? Our three planes, our three faces to create the perspective using two vanishing points. Vanishing point to the left and vanishing point to the right. Then there is a third way of going about doing this, using three vanishing points. So we have already looked at the first two. So this is VP1 here, and this will be VP2. And this one down here would be VP3, which is quite similar to what we'll be doing today. We'll be connecting, creating three vanishing points to draw our perspective house. So let's look at how this works. The first two, we already know how they work. Everything connects to this on the left side, this vanishing point. Then on the right side, to vanishing point 2. And these are all straight lines going back to this point. And then on the below side, these connecting to vanishing point 3. And this is what allows us to create a 3-point perspective. So there are two vanishing points on the horizontal plane, and then the third vanishing point takes care of the vertical plane. That's how vanishing points work. And what I've just explained is a 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, and a 3-point perspective. Using the 3-point perspective uses 3 vanishing points. The 2-point perspective uses 2, and the 1-point uses 1. The actual titles indicate how many vanishing points needed to create the perspective. 1 point, 1 vanishing point, 2 point, 2 vanishing points, and 3-point perspective, 3 vanishing points respectively. So let's clear that now and let's move on. What else can I explain while I'm dealing with vanishing points? So how does this help? Having this knowledge, what can we do with this knowledge? Well, we can create images like these. We can either reproduce this, or if you have a similar image with a three-dimensional aspect to it, you can reproduce it once we are able to find our vanishing points. So if I wanted to reproduce this, I would have to look for a vanishing point which goes along that level and until these two lines perhaps meet. And somewhere over here would be my vanishing point, right? That would then turn to my vanishing point 1 if I were recreating this. And then if I were looking for my second vanishing point on this end, it would be, I will pull these lines here and where they converge, like somewhere around here, then this would then be my second vanishing point around here. But how would we set this up in a program? That's what we are going to be doing today. So we are going to be setting up vanishing points, and we are actually going to be drawing over our vanishing points while creating a 3-dimensional image. All right, so that's it. Let us now get straight in. Let's get into Krita. So the first thing what I do when I go into Krita, I create a new file. And the size that I'm going to be using, 11 inches for my width, and my height is 8.5. So in order for me to do that, I click on this bar, which says pixels, and I go to inches. And before I go any further, I make sure my heights and my width are exactly what I want. 11 inches wide, 8.5 height. And then I make sure it's on landscape orientation. And then I hit create. So this is how we start off. Now, I recognize from doing this course that not everybody starts off with the same menu, with the same interface. So what I'm going to do today is show everyone how to start off with a default interface. I have already started here with a brush ready to go. let's start with a default interface so that we all can work using the computer setup exactly the same. So I'm going to come over to Windows, and I am going to Workspace, and then I come to default. So I click it and it's on default. That's pretty good. That means that if you have done the same, once you're following this tutorial, we can work using the same interface, which makes it easier for you to follow along. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to pull this Docker's bar, make it larger. I think I like that. I like what I'm seeing here. I see my layers. I can see my advanced color selector. I can see my tool options. And the only thing that I'm going to add to this default setup is something called Dockers, which allows, sorry, not Dockers, overview, which allows me to see an overview of the drawing while I'm working. So I'm going to come over to my settings, go to Dockers. And this is where I add actual bars to the toolbar on the right hand side. So I'm going to go and look for overview, which is right here. I'm going to click it and then it appears right here. So this is my overview. Looking at the sheet, it allows me, so if I were to just draw a mark there, it allows me to see it here, and I can zoom in. I can actually zoom in from just using the overview. So I can use the overview. I can use this button down here to zoom also, or I can place my mouse into the canvas and wheel it forward or backward to zoom. So I think those are some useful tips that I just had to start off with so that everyone knows what we are doing and how to navigate this program a lot easier. Now, let us bring in the image. So I'm going to go to my pointer, and then I'm going to go to my reference tool. I usually like idling my work on my pointer because I know nothing can be drawn by mistake. So when I'm not doing anything, I put it back on the pointer, which is called the Select Shapes tool. Now, let us go over to Reference Images tool right here. And I'm going to turn on my tool options. And I'm going to pull down this bar. Pulling down this bar makes things easier because it allows me to see everything, the full options within every menu. So I'm going to add reference image, click here, and the image that I'm looking for is this. But I don't want this image exactly with all the writing. I want the image without the writing. So I'm going to pull in that one without the writing, which would be somewhere around here. I have it right. Cottage video presentation, right? So just open it. It fits on my page. I put it in the middle. That looks good. I turned down my opacity so I can draw over it. I'm going to keep my opacity at around 44. I like it. And I've made it a ghost image in the background now that I can draw on top of it. That's the first thing done. The next thing now is to set up the assistant tool. Moving over to my assistant tool option, which looks like a triangle. Just a simple triangle. I click there, and now we are in the assistant tool option. There are many modes available here. So let me just briefly take you through. This word add means that you add. Right? You have a vanishing point, you have a spleen, you have a ruler, you have a perspective, you have parallel ruler, infinite ruler, fish eye point, ellipse. And today we'll be looking at the vanishing point. So let's go on to the vanishing point. Now, what does opacity mean? Opacity means that I can turn down the actual assistant tool so that it wouldn't be so bright or it wouldn't be so loud on the drawing. I have control over that with the opacity. And this gray button, when I choose that, I'm actually able to specify the color I want my assistant to be. So I can determine what color I want to be looking at while I have my assistant on the screen. So I'm going to choose a red color. And now let us start. So I'm first going to be placing in my assistant on the left-hand side. So let me just draw and let you see where I'm going to put in my assistant. I want my assistant, I should draw this in red so that everyone would understand. I want my assistant to be on this line, going back, and I want it also on this bottom line, going back. So I'm going to be using these two lines as my reference lines to put in my assistant. Also, I'm going to be placing my first point here. The point, so these are where the points are going to go in. So those are the 4 points that I'm going to be placing in using my assistant tool until they go back to the diminishing point somewhere in the back here, right? All right. Now, let us now clear this and put in the assistant tool. Right, so I've just clicked there, and the first thing when you click, you realize you get 4 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 points actually that appear on the screen, and then the point in the middle has all the lines converging to that. What can we do once this is on the screen? We can move it. We can turn it off so it's not active, and we can delete it. Those are the 3 options that are given, the 3 normal options. So let's put it back on the screen. But also what you need to do to set it up is you need to move these lines that have these circles on them. This allows you to set up your assistant. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up my assistant. So let me just delete this and show you what I'm going to do. Let me use my annotation for this part here. Once you understand, you can set up an assistant anywhere. So I'm going to first start off with these 2 points. These 2 outer points are my first points to move, and then these will be my second points to move. So that's why I have them 1s and 2s. This first point I'm going to move to here. Then this second first point on the left-hand side, I'm going to move to here, right? And then from there, let us then, I'll then show you what else I'm doing. So I just move that to there, and then move this around. And as you move, the vanishing point would also move too to reflect the changes made. Okay, so that's it. Those are in, right? Now let us move my second point. Let me show you what I'm going to do in my second points now. I'm going to move this second point to here. So this is my second point on the left-hand side, and my second point on the right-hand side. I'm going to move to there. So that's where I'm going to put these. Put those there, right? So now these are my second points that I'm moving. So let's see how this works. So as I'm moving the second point, the first point moves. That's not a problem because we need to readjust our first point anyway. So I have installed my second points. Now I need to come back to my first points and adjust them so that everything is perfect. So these are now in. Again, my first points, let's go over this. These were my first points to move. And then these are my second points that I installed. And then I go back and readjust my first point. So those are my 4 points in. The ones indicate which ones I move first. The 2s indicate the second ones that were moved in order for me to get this set up properly. Now that is in, the next thing I'm going to come over and change is the density. The density needs to go down to 1. I'll show you why we do that. All right, density down to 1. And then lastly, I'm going to change my opacity down to, I'm going to rock 25% opacity for this one. And that's 1 vantage point in, vanishing point in on this joint. Now we need to place in 2 more vanishing points. So I'm going to place another one on this side. And this time I'm going to customize the color. I don't want it to be red. So I'm going to customize the color by clicking the option customize custom color here. And then I'm going to choose the color that I want, right? So let us go now. I'll choose a blue for this one. Now turn down my opacity to 25% as well. And again, I'm going to be moving the outer ones first. So let's go over this process so that everyone can see. These are the ones that I move first, my outer ones, and then I come in to my inner circles. So where's this outer one going to go? I'm going to put this outer one, I'm actually going to attach it here, one, and I'm going to attach my second. All right, so those are my first two spots. So let us deal with that now. One. Right. So now where do my tools go? Let me try and show you. My second spot will go there. That's my two. And then somewhere around here is my two, and it will go there. Right. So those are the second points to be installed. Sometimes if you click into this space, you get these vanishing points appearing, and that would happen at first. You just need to delete them. The reason why that happens is once you are in the vanishing mode, you're either creating a new vanishing point or you're setting up a vanishing point properly. So you come over here and then now I can move things once I have clicked here, right? So I can move that and I'm going to put that there. Again, once I've moved this, my first point will move. So I can just put it back into place now. Yep, so now that point is in properly. Now I'm going to bring this across to the next there. And then I just adjust this to is on that path there. All right, so that's in. And then lastly, what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn down my density, right? From 15 all the way to 1. Cool. So my density is down. My second vanishing point is in. I might even turn down my opacity, probably about to 19. Yeah. And now the last vanishing point needs to go in. So I'm going to click somewhere around here. I'm going to custom color, change the color, and I'm going to put this as a green. And I'm going to turn down my opacity to roughly something like 16, 17. And I'm going to now set this up. So where are these ones going to go? So let's pull this into a nice frame so that we can study this joint. Cool. So my last vanishing points are going to go along this edge here. I should probably use green since we working. So it's going to go there, and I'm going to have them there. So I'm going to place the outer one here, the inner one here, the outer one here, the inner one there. That's how I'm going to set up my last set of vanishing points. All right. So I bring this closer onto the canvas so that I can see it. Now I'm going to just clear off these marks and I'm going to put them in. Again, what do? I always move the outer ones first. So move that outer one to there. Now move that outer one to there. So these are the ones that I move first. And then the second ones I will move after I have installed these first ones. So let's go here and pull that one to here. And I pull that one to here. Not a problem. Then I'm going to adjust it now by pulling this to there. Then readjust once that is on that point, and then just pull that to there. So let me just set this up now by pulling this over to here. Then, all right. So all three of my vanishing points are in. So again, I need to turn down the density to 1 for that one. So all three of my vanishing points are in. And before I go any further, I'm going to save this document. So I'm going to save. Let's see, where can I save this? It's there, and we'll call this vanishing point exercise. So what does this allow me to do now that this is in? I'm going to move off of my assistant tool and go to my brush tool now. And this allows me to draw over these lines. But before I can do that, I need to make sure this is turned on. That is very important. Snap to assistants. All right, so that is on. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select a brush from here. And I remember I didn't work with a brush. I worked with a pencil for this one, which is a pencil 3 large 4B. I'm just looking back at the instructions. So I've used, so let's see what I've done so far. Assistant tool. My 3 vanishing lines are in. I'm on my paint there. And I have my pencil large 3. And I also inserted my reference image, which is this image that I'm tracing over below. All right, so those are all in. Let us carry on smartly. So I got my pencil, and I think it's at a good size, 6.49. But before we start drawing, we need to turn one option on in this pencil settings. So I'm going to go to edit brush settings. And what I'm really in here for, I know in here it can be a bit confusing. So I'm just going to go straight to what I'm looking for. And what I'm looking for is my perspective, right? And enable pen settings, and I'm going to put perspective. This allows me that as I'm drawing and I'm going into my vanishing point, the line gets thinner. That's all. That's all. That's what that is there for. All right. And now let us start. So I'm going to give myself a size of 7, and I'm going to start drawing on this now. All right. My brush options I have at none, because I'm just drawing straight lines. So the first thing I'm doing is going to start here on this fascia board and then just draw like that. All right. So I'm allowed to draw in any direction now because all of my vanishing points are set up. So this process should be fairly easy. Just means taking your time and connecting these lines, making sure that everything is closed properly. Because if they, okay, sometimes this happens. You undo. Why does this happen? Because there's so many vanishing lines there. Sometimes the computer doesn't know which one you want to be drawing on when you first start off. So like this one is it wants to go here. So I just go back and pull it into this direction. It's going to draw it, but you have to make sure you're on the right track. That's good. All right. So this process is going to take a while. Just watching me sit down here, draw. Or that could have come up like this, and then we could have gone in, then start back here again, right? Again, you don't have to work with this pencil. You can work with a pen. You can actually turn down the size if you want to. That is totally up to you. You can control what instrument you're working with, right? It doesn't have to be a pen. So it could have been a pen. what I like about this tool is that, what do I like? I like that you can draw in any direction at any time, on any plane. I think that that is really cool. And it allows you to get your work done quickly. Right? So the hardest thing I would say is to set up your perspective lines, and we have done that. And then this is all taking your time, being patient, and just drawing, just retracing the lines. But at least you know when you're tracing, you have a solid guide to help you, which is the assistant tool. You can even draw circles with the assistant tool. You can draw ellipse, you can draw perspectives also. What I'm going to do is the inner lines in here, I'm going to use different size pencil because I find that this is starting to look a bit too thick. So when I'm putting in small details, you know, this might be not the best pencil to use. So as I get around to those inner details, when I get around to those inner details, I'm actually going to reduce the size of the pencil. Right? And the reason why I chose this exercise is because you have to use a combination of the assistant tool, the paintbrush, and then you'll be also using your paints too, because we're going to color this once it's finished. But also, more importantly, you get to use two assistants. What do I mean by that? You use the vanishing point assistant, and then we're going to have to use the ruler assistant. Right? How do we use the ruler assistant? We'll be using the ruler assistant to create, we'll be using the ruler system to create lines that are not on, to create the roof lines. So these lines here, just touching them, we'll be using the ruler assistant to create those lines there, right? So we get to use this assistant tool more than once in two different ways. Still drawing lines, still drawing straight lines, okay? It's very important that these lines touch. When they touch, that means that the shape can be closed like that. And that means I can then fill in that shape and fill it in properly. Let's close this off here. All right, so let's now put this house onto the land. That won't come all the way across. That one, right. That's important. So here's now where I'm going to turn down the size of the brush to probably like 3.5. And I'm going to be doing these inside details here. Right. So I've reduced the size of the brush to 3.5. At first I had it at 7. I'm not going to be drawing all the details for this window, to be honest with you. That's a bit time consuming. Instead, I'm not going to be drawing in every single aspect of the window. This is the door here that we can see. Something that I notice when using this tool, it doesn't allow you to switch directions when drawing. Like for example, I'm going down. So this is a vertical line. Now if I want to turn, I have to stop the line and then start again, which is good, but it doesn't allow you to draw quickly. You always have to stop and then go on to a new track. Right? That's what you have to do. So I think that's it. I'll leave that. I won't bother putting in the rest of all the details there. Like I'm saying, I'm just finishing off this door. And then I got 2 more windows to do. All right. Oops. Going in the wrong direction. Control Z to undo. Yeah. I tend to use Control Z a lot to undo mistakes that I make rather than deleting. I just find that easier. But you need to be careful when using Control Z. I've seen some students use Control Z, and what actually happened was they mistakenly undo the layer that was created and they didn't realize. So an example would be if I create a new layer, that's a command. That counts as a command. And if I go undo, it's going to undo that command. So you no longer have that new layer available. So Control Z doesn't only work when you draw something onto the page or the canvas and you actually want to undo it. It also works when you are punching in simple commands like creating a new layer or editing the layer or putting the layer into a different position. If I wanted to put the layer on top of another layer and I Control Z, it would rearrange the order, putting it back to what it was originally. So a lot of students make the mistake thinking that Control Z only works for undoing things drawn or things visibly seen. It's further than that. It spans more than that. And I just want people to appreciate that and use the Control Z properly and appropriately, right? Because you can find yourself in some deep trouble. So sometimes I'll turn off my snap to assistant if I want to do something like this. Just clean up this by erasing, right? I would turn off the snap to assistant because I want to be able to have the freedom to go in any direction. I don't want any assistant restricting me at this point. So I'm going to come back to these points here and I'm just going to clean it. How did I get the erase option on to my pencil? So every instrument carries a built-in erase option. If you can, up here, you can set eraser mode. And then if I turn it back off, I can get drawing. And if I turn here, set eraser mode on, I can actually erase what I've drawn. And it actually carries the same size as the pencil. So nothing changed. The same size 3.50 would be used. All right. So that's what I'm doing. I'm actually just using the eraser to clean up little mistakes that I've created while drawing. All right, right here. And then when I'm finished with the eraser mode, I can press E to turn it off, or I can just simply click here and turn it off. Right. I want to draw this line again, and I forgot. I need to snap to assistant so that. So sometimes I forget simple things like that. But the good thing is, when I start drawing, the computer doesn't do what I want it to do. And then I check my options to see if all my options are turned on. So turn off my snap to assistant for this one and just erase here. Erase there, make that look nice and clean. Then again around here. And I think I've done a pretty good job. Now what I need to do is put in the roof. So now these assistants, I can remove them. No longer needed them. Can wish them all the best and move on to another assistant option. Okay, I think I need to put in one more line, and that should be here. Cool. All right. Cool. Cool. That looks good. Just basically doing a little bit of cleanup. No. It's it. Cool. Good. Now the next thing is to put in the roof lines. So I'm going to save, update that. Control S is my shortcut that I use to save. And now I'm going to insert my roof lines. So how do I do that now? Go over to the assistant tool, the triangle here. And instead of add vanishing point, I add in ruler. Ruler. And I just come here, click. No, I clicked on the vanishing point. So I'm going to click that here and pull my line down to there. And that's the ruler. And I'm going to be drawing over that line. I'm going to do the same thing here. Click and pull down to there. Start a new vanishing point here. I mean a new line there. Click, connect those. Click, connect those. And let's start this one from here. And pull down. So I got all them in. Now what I'm going to do is go back over to my paint brush tool, snap to assistant, and put these in. I'm on my eraser mode, so I'm going to turn back off my eraser mode and turn back up my size to 7. So my pen size is now 7 again as I put in these last bits. Look what happened here. I had to do a little cheat like that because I never drew the line long enough, so the reference ran out. Right. It doesn't allow you to go past the reference line. All right, it wouldn't allow me to go past there. So I just do a little cheat like that to connect them. All right, cool. Let me just do that. Okay, those are all connected, and that looks good. So this is the end of the drawing. I finished drawing it. Finish. Now what do I need to do? I need to throw some colors in here. Yes, yes, yes. I'm going to throw some colors in here. There's one thing that I missed out. So let me draw in quickly. Turn off my eraser mode and just draw this line from there to there. Yeah. So that closes off the floor in the patio. And now I can turn off all of my assistant lines. So by just pressing this button here, which says all, and everything disappears. All of my assistants, they go. Now, what else am I going to do? I'm going to go back to the reference image and turn down the opacity so that we can actually see what I've drawn. So this is the image they gave us, and this is what I've produced. Pretty good. Now, what I'm going to do from here, I'm going to paint. How am I going to paint? I'm going to select, because I'm on my paint there, I'm going to use this tool, which is called the contiguous selection tool. And I'm going to select parts. So let's start off with the grass, which would be the grass, the floor. And I made this selection, but I also want to select over here. So when I select over here, here isn't selected anymore. When I select here, there isn't selected anymore. So what do I need to do? I need to press shift. And if you press shift, you see a little plus comes up onto your selection tool. Right there, plus when you hold down shift. But if you press shift more than 5 times, this comes up. So always be aware of that. So let's press shift and hold it down and then make the selection over on this side. So I have both of these selected. Also, I'm going to select down here and around here. So I have all the grass selected. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over to fill. I can go over to fill and insert the color that I want. So I can go to color selector, probably choose a color from here. And just choose a green. A green with a bit of yellow in here. Yeah. Okay, good. And I just put that in. Put that in. Put that in. And then just go over the ears with the bucket and just put them in. Now, once I've finished that, how do I get out of this selection mode? You go here to select and go to the word deselect. Or you can use the computer shortcut, Control Shift plus A. All right, so that has been done. What's the next thing now? We're going to put some tiles or something to represent tiles on this walkaway surface. So again, grab this contiguous selection tool, select here, hold down shift, select the other side, perfect. Now let us put in a color in here. So color I'm going to use, I'll probably use yeah, I like that color. Cool. So that's my walkaway in. Now let's start having fun by coloring this house. So what am I going to color? I'm going to color this side. And when I click here, I realize that no, I'll still leave it. Let's put in a color in here now. What color I'm going to use? No. Yeah, I'll use that. I'm gonna say I'm not really giving much thought into these colors. You know, just literally throwing colors around. Okay. Now I'm going to select up here now. Up here now. What color am I going to put this in? Probably. Let's try that color. Let's see. No, I want a lighter color than that. Yeah, it's pretty good. Nothing too outstanding. All right, and now we move on. So I'm going to Control Shift plus A to deselect, or I could have gone up here and I could have hit deselect. All right, so now the next thing is let's put in the surfacing here. Put that as a dark color. Which color should I use? Let me just try that. Cool. Select these, select that, select that. I probably want a nice green in there. Okay. So just put in some green in there. Cool. And select here, hold on shift, select here. And now I'm going to be placing my fascia board. I'm going to color my fascia board. And I think that would be a good color. Represent some form of timber. Yep. Yep. And now my roof. What color am I going to give my roof? Go to blue. Yeah, let's try that. It too bright. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. And we can't just leave this here, so I'm going to put this in the same color as the walkway. So this is something, if I wanted to get back this same exact color around here, what do I have to do? I can either grab my brush and then press Alt, I mean Control, and this allows me to pick any color that I'm hovering over once. So then that, so if I wanted this green, I just grab my brush and then hover over it and press Control, and I'm allowed to pick the color. Press Control and select, and it allows me to select the color that I want. So quick way of picking the color so that I can match drop it to this selection that I'm going to make now. So go for this tool, select, hold shift, select, and then I go up bucket, and yeah, I can put it in there. Right. You need to select a small bit in here. That's what's the problem. In there. Pretty much finished. I need to insert a color for the windows and then one for the doors. What I'm going to do for the windows, I'm just going to select them all and place a blue in the background. You know, windows, that's the color of the window, the glass. I'm going to be working with the blue. Darkish blue. Yeah, like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the door. Select the door, hold on shift, select there. And I'm going to put the door in a brown. Yeah, I think that's good. And this little piece here, we can't leave it in white. So what I'm going to do is select all these little bits here that are in white and put them into some color. I don't know. What am I going to use? Right. So I've just cleaned up a few bits, and this is the end of the project. So I have a house, I have my windows, I have my grass, and I have my walkway. Everything has been colored. All right. I don't like this bit over here, so I'm just going to select there. Select here now and here, and then hit fill. Grab this color by holding Control and then inserting these colors. Right, much better, right? So this brings us to the end of this tutorial. So again, let us recap and then we can close this off. So what did we do today? We learned how to, we did this exercise. We drew this exercise using the perspective, the vanishing point tool, which assisted us to create a perspective drawing. How did we use the vanishing point tool? Well, we set up, we learned about the vanishing point tool, the 1-point perspective, having one vanishing point, 2-point perspective, having 1 and 2 vanishing points, and then the 3-point perspective, having 1, 2, and 3 vanishing points. We learned about those today and we created those. How did we create these? We created these using the assistant tool, which is right here. We went on to the assistant tool, turned on our tool options, and we turned on the vanishing point assistant. And by doing that, we can just click here and it will go onto your screen once you just bring it in. It comes in default like that, and it has 4 options. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options, actually 5. The reason why I said 4 options because I never ever interfere with the midpoint, which is the actual vanishing point. I always adjust these levers, the outer options, the outer levers first, and then I set up the inner points. Then readjust the outer ones, and that's how I get my vanishing point there. I don't ever adjust my actual vanishing point. I do not do that. This is something that I don't do. I just adjust these levers, and then as a result, the vanishing point will put itself into the correct position. To get rid of the vanishing point, we can either press here, or we can press here to get rid of all. This depends on how many you have on the screen. You can press all and it would work, right? Then what else did we do? After we've done all that, we drew all this on our paint layer, by the way. Our paint layer, everything was drawn on our paint layer. What else did we do? We use a paintbrush. We use a pencil. And this is the size pencil here that we use. We use a pencil 3 large 4B, and I mainly used it at size 7, but for the inner details, I use size 3.5. And then after we've drawn this, what else did I do? I went and I colored it. I colored it in a very, very basic way by using the contiguous selection tool to select the surfaces. So like example, I can select that surface, and I went to my fill option, and I dropped some paint in there, like that. So I can just drop any sort of paint in there, and it will get me any color I want. But that's not the color I want. So undo, Control Z to get back to the original color that I placed in there. And that is the process that I did. I went around selecting the areas I wanted, and I just placed the paint into them by using the fill. How do I get out of my selection option? Because once I have something selected, I'm locked in. I go up here to my select and deselect. And that's it. So this brings us to the end. I hope everyone understood this, and I hope everyone learned something from this, and they would have the confidence then to perhaps draw something like this on their own and know how to set it up and get it drawn properly. All right. Now from here, I'll just be showing off some students' work, and that would be it. So join us again next time for another Krita presentation. We will be looking at another tool, and we'll be completing an exercise. Until then, subscribe to the channel, practice, and keep practicing to make sure you get things right. Take care. I'm out.